The Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, has long been at the forefront of the United States' efforts to protect its national security. However, throughout its history, the agency has been marred by the betrayal of some of its own. The traitors within the CIA have not only compromised American intelligence, but have also put countless lives at risk. This article delves into the lives and treachery of 8 of the most infamous traitors in CIA history, each with their own unique tale of espionage. Edward Lee Howard. Edward Lee Howard's story is one of bitterness and betrayal. Born in 1951, Howard was a former CIA officer who had his career abruptly cut short. In the early 1980s, after a brief stint as a Peace Corps volunteer and work in state government, Howard joined the CIA. He was trained as a covert officer with the intent to be stationed in Moscow. However, due to his increasingly erratic behavior and a failed polygraph test, the CIA revoked his security clearance and terminated his employment in 1983. Feeling betrayed by the agency that once entrusted him with sensitive information, Howard sought revenge. In 1985, he defected to the Soviet Union, providing the KGB with valuable intelligence, including the identities of undercover CIA officers in Moscow. His defection was a severe blow to the CIA, leading to the compromise of numerous operations and assets. Howard remained in the Soviet Union and later Russia until his death in 2002. He was never captured, living out his days under the protection of the very people he had once been trained to fight. William Campiles. William Campiles was a low-level CIA employee whose betrayal was driven by a combination of frustration and greed. In 1977, Campiles, a 23-year-old watch officer, was assigned to the CIA's Operations Center. Dissatisfied with his career prospects and eager to make a quick buck, Campiles made a decision that would change his life forever. He stole a top-secret KH-11 reconnaissance satellite manual from the CIA headquarters and, in a stunning act of betrayal, sold it to the Soviet Union for a mere $3,000. The KH-11 manual was an invaluable piece of intelligence, providing the Soviets with insights into one of the most advanced spy satellites of the time. Campiles' actions not only endangered national security, but also underscored the ease with which classified information could be compromised. He was arrested in 1978 and sentenced to 40 years in prison. Campiles' story serves as a stark reminder that sometimes the most significant betrayals come from those who are seemingly insignificant within the organization. Harold James Nicholson. Harold James Nicholson was a senior CIA officer whose betrayal ran deep, not just within the agency, but within his own family. Nicholson, who joined the CIA in the late 1970s, had a distinguished career, serving in various capacities across the globe. However, by the mid-1990s, Nicholson had become disillusioned with his work and sought to profit from his position. In 1994, he began selling classified information to Russia, earning over $300,000 for his treachery. What makes Nicholson's story particularly chilling is the involvement of his son, Nathaniel. After Nicholson was arrested in 1996, he continued to communicate with his Russian handlers through his son, who delivered messages and money on his behalf. This father-son espionage operation was uncovered in 2008, leading to additional charges against Nicholson and the arrest of his son. Harold James Nicholson's story is a dark tale of how betrayal can permeate even the closest of relationships, leaving a legacy of shame and mistrust. Carl Cooker. Carl Cooker was a mole within the CIA whose story reads like a spy novel. Born in Czechoslovakia, Cooker was recruited by Czechoslovak intelligence in the early 1960s. In a daring move, he and his wife Hanna defected to the United States, where Cooker eventually joined the CIA as a translator. For over a decade, Cooker passed valuable intelligence to the Soviet bloc. all while maintaining his cover as a loyal CIA employee. Coker's espionage activities included revealing the identities of CIA operatives and providing insights into U.S. intelligence operations. His ability to evade detection for so long is a testament to his cunning and the weaknesses in the CIA's counterintelligence efforts at the time. Coker was finally arrested in 1984, but in a surprising twist, he was exchanged for Soviet dissident Anatoly Sharansky, later known as Natan Sharansky, in a spy swap in 1986. Carl Coker's tale is one of audacity and deception, highlighting the complex and often murky world of Cold War espionage. Ronald Pelton. Ronald Pelton's betrayal was one of the most devastating blows to U.S. intelligence during the Cold War. A former employee of the National Security Agency, NSA, Pelton had access to some of the nation's most closely guarded secrets. After resigning from the NSA in 1979 due to financial difficulties, Pelton approached the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C. and offered his services. Over the next few years, Pelton provided the Soviets with detailed information on various CIA and NSA operations, including the highly classified Operation Ivy Bells, a mission to tap Soviet undersea communication cables. The damage caused by Pelton's betrayal was incalculable, leading to the compromise of critical intelligence gathering operations. He was arrested in 1985 and sentenced to life in prison. Ronald Pelton's story is a sobering reminder of the vulnerability of even the most secure intelligence operations to insider threats. Larry Wu Tai Chin. Larry Wu Tai Chin's espionage career is notable for its longevity and the extent of the damage he caused. Born in China in 1922, Chin was recruited by Chinese intelligence in the early 1950s while working as an interpreter for the U.S. military in Korea. He later joined the CIA as a translator, where he had access to highly sensitive information about U.S. intelligence operations in Asia. For over 30 years, Chin passed classified information to the Chinese government, providing them with a wealth of intelligence on U.S. activities in the region. His betrayal went undetected for decades, making him one of the most successful spies in history. Chin was finally arrested in 1985, but before he could be sentenced, he committed suicide in his prison cell. Larry Wu Tai Chin's story is a stark example of how a single individual can compromise national security for an extended period, causing irreparable harm to their country. Christopher John Boyce. Christopher John Boyce's story, immortalized in the book and film The Falcon and the Snowman, is one of youthful idealism gone horribly wrong. Born in 1953, Boyce was a bright and charismatic young man who landed a job at TRW, a defense contractor working with the CIA. Through his position, Boyce gained access to highly classified information, including details about U.S. spy satellites and covert operations. Disillusioned with U.S. foreign policy, particularly its actions in Latin America, Boyce decided to betray his country. Along with his friend Andrew Dalton Lee, Boyce sold classified documents to the Soviet Union via Mexican intermediaries. The duo was eventually caught in 1977, and Boyce was sentenced to 40 years in prison. However, in a dramatic twist, Boyce escaped from prison in 1980, going on a crime spree before being recaptured. Christopher John Boyce's story is a tragic tale of how idealism, when coupled with access to sensitive information, can lead to devastating consequences. Aldrich Ames. Aldrich Ames is perhaps the most infamous traitor in CIA history, responsible for one of the most significant intelligence disasters of the Cold War. Born in 1941, Ames joined the CIA in 1962 and worked his way up through the ranks, eventually becoming the head of the Soviet Counterintelligence Division. However, by the mid-1980s, Ames was in financial trouble, facing debt from his lavish lifestyle. Desperate for money, Ames made the fateful decision to sell classified information to the Soviet Union in 1985. Over the next 9 years, Ames provided the KGB, and later the SVR after the Soviet Union's collapse, with the identities of numerous CIA assets in the Soviet Union. His betrayal led directly to the deaths of at least 10 CIA operatives and compromised virtually every major CIA operation in the Soviet Union during that time. Ames received over $2.7 million for his treachery, making him one of the highest-paid spies in history. Ames was finally arrested in 1994, after years of suspicion and investigation. His arrest was a significant embarrassment for the CIA, highlighting severe lapses in internal security and counterintelligence. Ames was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The case of Aldrich Ames is a chilling reminder of how greed and disillusionment can lead to catastrophic betrayals with far-reaching consequences. The CIA's history is marked by both triumphs and tragedies, and the stories of these traitors are an integral part of that history. They serve as a stark reminder that in the world of espionage, the greatest threats often come from within.